After the release of Rayman 3, the geniuses at Ubisoft for some reason just stopped bringing out Rayman games, with only the Rabbids spin-offs in sight. Whilst Mario was rocking the platforming genre, and Sonic trying and mostly failing, with a couple of exceptions, there was not a single mainline Rayman game in sight from the mid to late 2000s. Not until an Ubisoft E3 conference in 2010, where we were graced with a trailer for their next project involving the helicopter hero.
Long ago, the primordial forest, deep and mysterious, witnessed the birth of a man. A vegetable. No. A thingamajig. Conjured from the magnificent moonbeams of the second summer solstice, woven together by us, the nymphs, destined to preserve the equilibrium of the sacred universe, the one we call Rayman.
Ah, shit. Here comes Rayman. I'll take 50 of those. Even Michel Ancel made a return to direct the next game in the series. There was just a green flag in all the right places. They originally intended to make it as a downloadable episodic title, and had a release date of the supposed 2010 holiday season, but was delayed and there was no news going forth to the end of 2010. Almost a year later, in May 2011, Rayman Origins was announced as a full retail game and was set for release in 2011. This time, they were correct. Rayman Origins glided onto store shelves on November 2011 for the PlayStation 3, Nintendo Wii, and Xbox 360, with a PlayStation Vita, a PC, and a Nintendo 3DS port in 2012, and an OS X version in winter 2013. Yo, Ernie.
What?
Guess what? I got you some tickets to Six Flags.
No way.
No? Look at this. Look.
Looks like a fucking Kinder wrapper.
No, it's not, honestly. It's Six Flags tickets. Like, honestly, they are.
Are you trying to set me up with that?
No, of course not, no. I want you in this review as much as you do, Ernie. Go and show Oscar.
Oh my fucking god! Oh yeah, wig! Yeah! Oh, Six Flags! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oscar! I got some. I think Six Flags tickets real. I got Six Flags tickets. Yeah. I'm going to Six Flags, baby. Yeah.
Nice.
Yes, it worked. Now it's just me that's doing the review, and Ernie doesn't have to tarnish this otherwise beautiful game. The game was one of the first to utilise the UbiArt framework engine. What is the UbiArt framework, you ask? Well, it's an in-house graphics engine which allows artists to easily create and design content in which they can use in an interactive environment. The artists only have to create and pose the model and edit the silhouette, as the software takes care of image distortion automatically. The main aim of this engine is to allow artists and designers to focus on the art itself without having to worry about technical aspects of game development. The engine was even optimized for HD resolutions and allowed games to run in full high definition 1080p at 60 frames per second. It paid off too, because this is a gorgeous looking game. The hand-drawn art style kind of reminds me of a Saturday morning cartoon. I honestly mean that in the best way possible. Anyway, let's move on to the story before I digress. Rayman, Glowbox, and a couple of teensies that play a free and full control are sleeping peacefully within the glade of dreams, whilst also humorously making sounds to the rhythm of the music, which causes an elderly granny from the land of the living dead to be disturbed. She then retaliates and sends an evil army of horrifying creatures and dark toons across the world. With our heroes woken up shortly after, attempt to fight back the monsters, but end up getting captured. Rayman manages to break free, however, he discovers by a different looking Polycus that the Dark Toons have captured the Electoons. Bringing back the Electoons, I see, Ubisoft. As well as imprisoning Bettilla the Nymph and her sisters, and plunge the Glade of Dreams into chaos. Bettilla, you're showing an awful lot more flesh than last time. Those sure are a nice pair of wings you got there. What's this game rated again? Because of the current state of the world, Polycus starts to feel uneasy and begins to suffer from nightmares. He then asks our heroes with gathering the Electoons to cure him and save the Glade from impending doom. The Electoons are handled so much better in this game compared to Rayman, as previously you would have had to collect every single one in order to access the final level. Here, it acts more as freeing enough Electoons to progress to the next world, similar to the progression of gaining enough Power Stars in Super Mario Galaxy 2. With every world explored, the four find themselves at an anonymous looking gate which is only accessible by freeing the Glade Kings from their evil forms which act as bosses in this game. Once that problem's been solved, we make it to a hideout in the Moody Clouds where we discover the magician Teensy, who is a secret admirer of Mr. Dark, is behind this phenomenon. The heroes fall down his trapdoor and find themselves facing mechanical versions of the possessed Glade Kings they previously faced, but fortunately, our heroes exit unscathed and manage to get back up to the lair to confront the magician, in which he tries to distract them with what I consider to be one of the greatest cutscenes of all time. Rayman and friends begin their hot pursuit on the magician in his escape airship by shooting it down with the help of their mosquito buddies. The fatally damaged ship crashes into the power source of the hideout, which, along with a chain of events, causes the hideout to combust, foiling the magician's plans, leaving Rayman and pals plummeting towards the snoring tree, where we once again come full circle with our forced snoring to the rhythm of the music. I love Rayman, but I'm glad I get to take a break from talking about big plots. The previous two games were an absolute nightmare to write a script for, so I'm kind of relieved. Looking back at the previous two games, the story presented here, like the first entry, is quite simple in comparison. Kind of a bit odd for a game called Rayman Origins. Interestingly enough, the game was originally going to have more of a plot, and even bring back Mr. Dark. Would have been interesting to see that version. Well, I can only dream. Did you know, the original HUD was going to display a health meter that heavily resembles the one from Rayman, but I'm guessing it was scrapped as it might have confused players with whose health it represented, as in the final version, you have one hit point but can gain a heart to be able to take an extra hit. Next, Rayman and the other characters were originally going to have an additional move called Propeller, where they could create a wind gust, interact with various objects, and even help out other teammates by giving them more height. The series reverts back to 2D platforming in this entry, but I'd be lying if I said this was a true sequel to the original, even though it has the Electoons and Tilla the Fairy, and references to Mr. Dark. The gameplay controls and mechanics are a whole different beast. Rayman can walk, run, and jump, and eventually be able to unlock more abilities as you progress through the game, such as attack, where you can either punch or hold the attack button to charge a devastating blow, hold down whilst in midair to pull off a ground slam, or perform an accelerating spin dash which will hit enemies within range. The famous helicopter ability that needs no introduction nor explanation. The ability to shrink down to bite-sized proportions, being able to dive and breathe underwater, and lastly, being able to run along the walls. I want to say right now that Rayman's control just feels so natural with the weight as well as the movement speed, and man does it feel good to pull off some awesome parkour stunts from running and jumping on platforms to sprinting up walls and bouncing between different sides. Rayman has never looked and felt this acrobatic. The momentum-based gameplay kind of reminds me of the best 2D Sonic stages, where the more you play them, the more skilled you become. The bosses felt like a last-second addition to the game though. Not terrible by any means, but fall short in comparison to the main levels. There's also these mosquito levels which act as a 2D side-scroller shooter, which I find to be a very fun playstyle. By freeing enough Electoons, you'll unlock a fun but challenging bonus level in every world, where you'll have to chase a treasure chest at the end to gain a red tooth. Collecting every red tooth rewards you with the hardest level in the game, which is also my favourite, the Land of the Living Dead. This level puts your platforming skills to the ultimate test, and call me a beta scrub all you want, but it makes me glad the whole life system in games has long gone from the times of being sent to the beginning of a level or an entire game. This means that you can retry a previous section as many times as you want with no consequences, so with enough patience and skill, anyone can beat this level. Yellow Lumps return from Rayman 2 and are once again collectibles Rayman can grab in stages, but don't act as means to progress as the electrons fulfill that role. They instead act as points, where now at the end of every level, you'll be given a total score as well as awarded 1 or 2 Electoons, or a gold medal, depending on how many you collect. On top of that, there are King Lumps where once collected, you'll be able to earn double points by earning Yellow Lumps which will be temporarily red, similar to the red coins in the new Super Mario Bros. Series, though there's just much more personality here. And that's another thing I want to add. Ubisoft never fails to give these games personality. The game is oozing with it. It's impossible to keep it in the disc case. From the mosquito acting as the kazoo instrument, to being able to make a song just by selecting a file on the file select screen. The devs really outdid themselves with the level variety. There's Gibberish Jungle, the desert of didgeridoos, filled with musical instruments that make up set pieces and platforms, Gourmandland, where you'll be exploring hot fiery kitchens filled with food, as well as an icy cocktail environment, Sea Serendipity, where half of the world takes place in a village built on stilts, whilst the other half takes you to the depths of the ocean, Mystical Peak, and lastly Moody Clouds, where the lair of the magician Teensy is located. Oh, the soundtrack! The soundtrack is incredible in this game, but it's a bummer that only a selection are available on iTunes. There's an incredibly huge variety of instruments that can be heard, like the jaw harp in Gibberish Jungle, didgeridoos in, funny enough, the desert of didgeridoos, the banjo in the treasure chase levels, and the metal clanging sounds to fit exploring ancient mechanical ruins in Mystical Peak. And some levels' pieces sound orchestrated, as if they were ripped straight out of a Disney film. Even the fish sing gibberish just as you dive into the water, with a Finding Nemo-like score playing to accompany it. Finally, Rayman Origins is an awesome 2D momentum-based platformer that is a blast to play alone or with friends. It sort of is like a glorified new Super Mario Bros. If there was a little bit more personality put into the mix. I think it's time to move on to Rayman Legends before the Nintendrons strike me for having an opinion. I'll be focusing on the Switch version of this game, as it contains all the costumes from all the other versions, as well as a Mario and Luigi costume for Rayman and Globox respectively. Anyway, let's go!